Idaho bill banning indoctrination in public schools passes the Idaho Senate. If the governor signs it, that's a big if. We've seen Republican coward governors, but you will need a fleet of bulldozers to level all those disinformation camps known as public schools. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start in Idaho, Spudtown, where leftists are going crazy over a new bill that would require all schools to provide different points of view. Look, the left is freaking out about a bill that requires multiple perspectives on issues. How incredibly controversial.
I'm sorry to all the people in Idaho. If there's any other joke we can make other than something about potatoes, please let us know in the comments. I was thinking I was going to say something about potatoes, but Dr. Duke beat me there.
Who's the state dog of Idaho?
Oh, potato.
Spuds McKenzie.
Anywho,
McKenzie.
As you talked about, this is actually a case where we're trying to make it a bill to become a law to teach everything instead of, we're trying to make it so you only teach critical race theory or you only, teach one leftist way of thinking. No, we just want you to teach like all viewpoints and let the kids think.
Well, and the left is packaging this as if the governor is trying to stifle speech.
Oh, absolutely.
Seriously, by allowing speech besides critical race speech, the left is acting as if the governor is censoring them.
They're trying to shut down the speech of the bill so that speech is then shut down. They're doing the speech shutdown. Yeah, that's try and understand. Follow along.
Senate Education Chairman Stephen Thane, a Republican, said, quote, "There is no topic banned in this bill. There's no book banned in this bill. It does not censor any history. You can talk about anything you want to in history. In fact, it does not ban even the teaching of critical race theory. It doesn't even ban that. It doesn't ban anything. What it says is that you cannot compel students to adopt or adhere to certain principles by only teaching critical race theory, by not allowing kids or even teachers to be forced to challenge as well as promote it. You're giving what we used to call indoctrination. Indoctrination, it comes from the word doctrinaire, right? Dogma. You're not presenting kids with an opportunity to challenge, to question, to think for themselves. You're dogmatizing them. You are indoctrinating them. You are brainwashing them.
Yeah, and this brainwashing we had for this specific bill when it was taken up in the House, more than 100 Idaho students ranging from 8th grade through actually college, they protested at the State House, protesting against HB 377 is what it is. But then in the middle of their protest, the Senate actually suspended its rules and they took up the bill immediately, and that passed 27-8. It was a near party line vote. And we have Yvonne Shen, who's an 8th grader at North Junior High, a member of the Idaho Asian American Pacific Islander Youth Alliance. They organized the protest. She said, "Many people seem to think that teaching our students about the cruelty and suffering of our country's past is some form of self-hatred for our own country. But make no mistake, this is self-awareness. If we aren't able to recognize our own flaws, we will never be able to progress beyond them." And the thing is, when you say it like that, it almost makes it seem like, well, yeah, we should teach the history, teach all of it. But if they're protesting against the bill, it means they don't want the whole history to be taught. They don't actually understand what the bill is trying to do, which is just to teach all the history.
This is the Soviet nature of this, right? That what they're trying to do, they're the extremists who are acting like they're the victims.
Yes.
They're the ones who are actually behaving badly, who can't figure out why they're not allowed to do it. The fact that you won't let us behave badly to these kids, you won't let us abuse our teaching power by only teaching them one way of seeing the world, and that's your fault, not ours. According to the Idaho Press, quote, "Those principles are described in the bill as often found in critical race theory," unquote, and declared to be counter to state education policies which call for dignity, respect, and freedom of speech. There is no room for those things: dignity, respect, and freedom of speech in critical race theory. They include that any sex, race, religion, or national origin is inherently superior to or inferior, no, that anyone should be treated adversely because of those factors, or that any person is responsible for past actions of those with whom they share their factors. Stop blaming kids in 2021 for what somebody's great-great-grandmother might have done in the 1850s. It's not right, it's not legal, legitimate, and it's anti-education to treat people that way. It's discriminatory, your critical race theory, when it treats people that way.
And the bill also forbids Idaho schools at any level, K-12, or I guess if Joe Biden has his way,
Pre-K.
birth to past college, it forbids them at any level from acting to compel students to personally affirm, adopt, or adhere to those principles, as you were discussing, on pain of losing public funding. So all this bill is trying to do is actually allow educators to educate on what actually happened and not compel students or teachers or schools to do it. It's just saying you just,
right.
But
how much mandated teacher training? We were going to see it again tomorrow, I think. How much mandated teacher training to teach only this worldview? And this is how the left does it. I actually spoke to the Idaho legislature about a year and a half ago, and this is exactly what happened. The Democrats make up stuff like this. This is Janie Ward Engelking. Right? She says, quote, listen to this. "This legislation is not needed," said Senator Janie Ward Engelking, a Democrat from Boise. Of course, anything outside of Boise is not Democrat. Quote, she says, "Our universities and school districts already," don't laugh too loud, "already have procedures in place that will deal with any problem we have with the curriculum. What's happening is we have a group that's out for public release comments that our teachers are brainwashing children." Wait a second. What, you're telling me that the universities, you're telling me that middle school teachers in Boise will self-correct from all the critical race theory? Are you kidding me? That's your answer? That the schools will correct it? What kind of out-of-touch lawmaker are you? We have found, ladies and gentlemen, the Nancy Pelosi of Boise, Idaho. There she is. Woo! Somebody go check and see how many freezers, sub-zero freezers she has. We need to find out. She is literally, again, the Janie Ward Engelking. You get this year's Nancy Pelosi Clueless Award for being the most obvious, complete fool in politics in your state.
You know, we're always trying to find the silver lining in any story, at least I am. And this whole story is just, hey, it's decently positive. I can't believe it's happening, but here we are. Thank you, Arkansas, for being positive today. Arkansas is making positive policy moves. The state Senate passed a bill prohibiting, not encouraging, not inviting in, but prohibiting Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers from giving sex education programs to the public schools. The Senate actually voted in a 27-5. I don't know who those 5 people are, but boot them. Those passed the Senate 27-5, and the bill had already passed the House earlier in the month. And then a week ago, Asa Hutchinson, the governor, signed it. It's known as Act 820, and it's called Arkansas Student Protection Act. It will not allow any public school in the state of Arkansas to have any kind of relationship with an organization that offers abortions.
This cowardly governor of Arkansas, who refused to protect women's rights in sports, protecting young girls from the intrusion of transgender males into women's sports, at least did the right thing here. So that's also a silver lining. You see, I find myself in a difficult position here because it's a completely positive story.
Yeah. You know, he's at a loss for words because positivity doesn't ring true there.
My stinkometer has not allowed me to comment. I will say this. This is a big deal. Keeping Planned Parenthood out of public schools. Think about the vicious circle of Planned Parenthood. They're a murderous regime that pretends they're not. They've participated in the murder of more black kids than almost anything else in American culture right now in terms of abortion. They just disavowed their eugenicist, racist owner, but have paid no price for it. Right? If this was a conservative organization, Planned Parenthood, who was founded by a race-baiting anti-black eugenicist, the Planned Parenthood would not be allowed to survive. But because they're liberal, they survive. Meanwhile, they get between $600 and $700 million every year from Congress. Then they turn around and use that money to buy their way into public schools, to create more abortion candidates by teaching young kids about radical sex without morality. And they take part of that $600 million a year and give it to Democrat politicians to elect more Democrat politicians. The idea that they have free reign Planned Parenthood in our public schools is something that must be attended to. And thank you, Arkansas, for becoming the first state in the union to actually put Planned Parenthood in their place, at least partially so, which would be the ash heap of history.
He still managed to bring me down a little bit, didn't he? How are you feeling at home?
Down.
There you go. Senator Bob Ballinger is a Republican. He's one of the bill's sponsors. He said that if the entity, or like an abortion provider, if an entity provides abortions, I think the state of Arkansas has no business in any form contracting with them to do anything. And Republican Representative Mark Lowery is the one who wrote the bill that eventually was signed, that, again, stops any organization, including Planned Parenthood, from offering sex education in schools, because, Planned Parenthood provides abortions as much as they want to be like, oh, that's just a small percentage. That's not really what we do. That's what they do. But he said, I don't believe that. An organization that has that mindset checks that, or I don't believe that an organization that has that mindset, that of having abortions, performing abortions, that they would be able to check that at the door. And we know that when these Planned Parenthood representatives are in our classrooms with the students, if a girl or if a boy, if anyone asks about it, you think they check it at the door and they don't talk about abortions and what it is and how they can get one? No.
And then, of course, for every common sense Arkansas lawmaker, we have Planned Parenthood flags. Gloria Pedro, as in, I almost read that Gloria Pedo, right? That pretty accurate. In fact, we're going to go with it. I just don't see that R. Planned Parenthood's response from Gloria Pedo says, quote, I think it sends a message that comprehensive sex ed is not something that the legislature or the governor Really? You think that's what the bill says? Of course that's what it says. And you think that's a bad thing? Comprehensive sex education for 5-year-olds is not only unnecessary, it is immoral and creepy. Quote, she says, our students should not be stripped. Here you go. Even her verbs are pedtastic, right? Our students should not be stripped of basic education because our legislators have political agendas. Really? You really think that the logical place for radical comprehensive sex education is in the schools? Really?
That's basic education in her mind.
Basic education is teaching 7-year-olds how to perform anal intercourse safely.
And you know what? We're going to follow up a positive story with a semi-positive, sort of something good kind of happened, where there is a parent who's taking some action against critical race theory. And Dr. Duke, I know you talked about you want dads to get involved, and the dad is taking so much action so that he's moving across the country. He's moving from New York City all the way down to Florida. Now, his name is Harvey Goldman, and he took his 9-year-old daughter out of Heschel School in Manhattan. You know how many stories we've had on Manhattan schools lately?
Can I also say
3 is the
that
answer.
we have Harvey's a good Jewish name? The fact that he's taking his kid from New York to Florida, don't all Jews in New York have second residence in Florida? Is this really? He's probably taking them to the family retirement home.
I don't know. And so
Boca, where Boca Raton is where he's taking him to.
Now he decided, okay, I'm getting my 9-year-old out of here. Ultimately, though, the reason for the move is financial reasons. But the simple fact is he let the school have it as to, like, we're getting out of here because of all the BS that you are doing.
A educated Manhattan man, Jewish man, is going to take his kid down to backward Florida for an education. That shows you how bad it is in places like Manhattan.
And now, again, the financial reasons, I feel like it probably has something to do with the simple fact that the tuition at this school, Heschel School in Manhattan, is $43,000 per year, which is lower than the $57,000 it was at the last school we talked about, or the $52,000 at the other school we talked about, just to teach critical race theory. This is what these kids are getting. Yep. And so he had actually discovered that this was happening in his school because there was a newsletter that was sent out saying that they were going to, change up. It was like just a little blurb saying, oh, we're going to change the curriculum, probably right next to the lunch menu for next week. And if he wouldn't have questioned them, he would not have known that they're going to be talking about George Floyd, and they were talking about Black Lives Matter and support for them long before anything was determined in the Chauvin case. George Floyd hailed as a hero in this school. And so when he questioned them, they're like, well, this is what we're teaching. And so he's like, we're getting out of here. And he actually talked to Fox News about it.
Well, what happened to regular math and English? You little children don't need to feel bad about the color of their skin.
Right.
That's what they're teaching them, to feel bad about who they are. Schools are supposed to be teaching you confidence.
He sent a letter to the Heschel School basically laying that exact thing out, saying, why are we just not teaching them actual reading, writing, arithmetic? And in the letter he said, first and foremost, neither I nor my child have white privilege, nor do we need to apologize for it. Suggesting I do is insulting. Suggesting my 9-year-old child suggesting that to my 9-year-old child, that's child abuse, not education.
Yeah, go back and show Mr. Goldman. For that statement alone, absolutely one of the most concise statements about why this is wrong. For that, we're going to applaud the fact that he has got his shirt unbuttoned almost down to the belly. This is not a typical look that you would expect from the Jewish community in Manhattan. This is a little bit more Sopranos, Tony Soprano. But that's okay. That's okay. He just carried it. He carried it off like a boss, like a Goomba boss. He did. And telling that school where to go.
That's a city boy response right there. My perspective when I saw and heard him was, hey, he's like a farmer just down the road. He's like a guy named Hauser, who is one of my dad's best friends.
Yeah, because the Jewish farming community.
His name is Hauser.
It's like the Jewish
guys.
NBA.
Shirt down there, the glass. He had a beard,
it's
though.
Like Jewish,
a bigger beard.
It's like the Jewish NBA.
Like the shirt down here, big belly.
It's like the Jewish NBA community, right?
There is no such thing.
Jewish farming is one of those things that, how do you keep them out of doctor school when they can get up with the chickens? And
the school responded, of course, in only the school's way. They said, we are a Jewish day school and very proud of our secular and religious curriculum, which Mr. Goldman is fundamentally misrepresenting. And that's in a statement they released. They also said his family informed us last summer that they would likely relocate to Florida for financial reasons. We were surprised to read about his new explanation for the moving, question his motives for making such statements at this time.
But notice how they don't deny what he said they said.
Exactly.
They don't deny what his daughter is learning, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. It's good to know that, Mr. Goodman, you did the right thing. We need to send you a great big medallion to wear with that open shirt. Go full Tony Soprano, brother. All right, welcome to Instant Classics, where we talk a little bit away from the heavy, although this has been a rather light, funny show. We usually use Instant Classic as a way of taking a break, so let's take a break from Katie's bad comedy and my genius as a comic, and talk about Nikolai Gogol, the theme of Gogol Week, the great Russian writer who inspired such minds like Fyodor Dostoevsky to write his books. We've seen a couple of great quotes from him. I want to go back to another one today. Take a look at this quote from Nikolai Gogol. Quote, "Our century is so shallow, its desires scattered so widely, our knowledge so encyclopedic, that we are absolutely unable to focus our designs on any single object, and hence, willy-nilly, we fragment all our works into trivia and charming toys. We have the marvelous gift of making everything insignificant." That was Nikolai Gogol from about 1840. Here, fast forward all the way to the year 2021, and tell me that is not a perfect definition of what's going on in first world Western countries right now. Our knowledge is encyclopedia, and encyclopedic. We know more than we've ever known in human history, and yet our entire approach to life is trivial and juvenile, and ultimately turning serious things into foolish ones. There's a lot about that in the Bible too, right? Go read the Proverbs about that. I think Nikolai Gogol had hit on something from his generation that is as equally powerful for ours.
All right, just a quick reminder to please download our Freedom Project Media app. All you have to do is search Freedom Project in your app store. And if you enjoy our content, please support us by joining the Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows us to bring you all the stories every day. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. And when you get signed up, we're going to ship you our signature tumbler as a little thank you. Now we want to take a moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. And today we're going to give a shout out to Jill and Chuck from Appleton, Wisconsin. Good old Wisconsin. Jill and Chuck, thank you so much for supporting us.
Chuck, Jill, swing on by. We'll have a house party. I'll button our shirts down to the belly button and we'll rock it. And that wraps it up for this show for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie. Until next time, get rid of those first two buttons, America. Let it all hang out.